the path illuminates itself as you walk it. You just have to walk the path. When you first get started into anything, you definitely don't have much information to use as reference in your brain. All the information you need is still in the external world. You have to go to people to learn stuff. That's how it all starts. But then as we keep going at it, you keep showing up every day, you keep reading books, doing all the stuff you need to do. That's when you start to learn, start to connect the dots. And as we keep going at it, that's when you start to see things that you've never seen before, because your perspective start to change. The way you see things change, and that's when you start to get better. This usually takes a couple of months. It doesn't just happen in a week or a month. It usually takes a couple of months or years before we get to a point where we are no longer a beginner, but we cannot call yourself a master, because there's always something to learn. But you start to see things a little bit different than when you first started, and that's usually the point where you also start to see results that you've been looking for. And then as we keep on going at it, we reach new levels. You start to make more money than you ever made before. Things eventually start to work out. And usually this is where some people either go back because they feel like it's scary, but others just keep on going. But the thing is that if I want to put this all in just a few words, I will say we just have to get started. And once you get started, you don't stop. Whatever goal it is that you have, just get started, and then you keep showing up every day to get better. And it's during that period where we learn new stuff that things eventually just work out on their own. You just have to focus on the habits. Like I've said in the previous video, you have to align your goals with your habits. If those things are not in alignment, then you're just going to go in circles. You start seeing the kind of results you don't know you want to see. That's why some people have a goal, but they wonder why they're not achieving that goal. It's because their habits are not in alignment with the outcome that they want. It's usually once you start aligning your habits and you maintain those habits eventually are going to evolve over time. Because when you start, you don't know much, so the kind of actions you're going to take is going to be imperfect. But as you get better, your actions eventually start to evolve just a little bit. But over time, you will see massive change. That's what I mean when I say the path illuminates its walk. Things don't just happen on day one. As you keep on going, you're going to meet new people that you didn't even know existed on this planet, and those people are going to contribute to your journey. And then you just keep on going at it. Those people eventually, you might leave them behind, or you might come with them. They just different things that are going to happen. The path is not like set in terms of what is going to happen on your journey. It's just a matter of you just keep on going, you maintain the habit, and you will meet some people along the way that will contribute to your journey, that you will learn new things from. And as we keep on going, we discover new things to implement, to make your actions or systems more effective. And as you just keep on going at it, eventually you start to see the results you're looking for. And I've said this also in the previous video, that in the beginning it was that like this. You are here, right? You are here. This is the level you are at, but then you go down first. You go down. This period may take a few years, and then eventually, but during that few years, we are learning things that other people never get to learn. We are learning skills, we are learning from your mistakes, but then eventually you get to a point where you cannot go any lower. Then you start to get better and things start to go like this. And whew, this is the journey, guys. So if you are in that period right now where you feel like whatever you are doing is not gonna work out, like just stick with it. Focus on the goal and focus on the habits also. Focus on those two things. You know your goals, and then your habit is more like your plans. You have to have plans in place, and then your habits have to align with those plans to get the outcome that you want. And then eventually, if you stick with it for a few years, you will make all the mistakes that you have to make before you have that breakthrough. And that breakthrough is not it's actually a mental thing. It's something that you see in your mind. The outcome might not happen immediately, but that breakthrough is a perspective where you see things a little bit different than you used to see them. That is the breakthrough. But that breakthrough comes after years of mistakes, of learning different things, learning and unlearning. And then if you just keep on, if you just stick with it, eventually things start to happen. You figure it out. The past just opens itself for you. You meet people in your journey that helps you, and eventually start to see the results you were looking for. And as you keep on going at it, those results start to compound, and you start to make the kind of money you never even imagined you could make, because just a few years ago you were in a bad place. You felt like this was not gonna work, but eventually start to see it works. And the people on the outside, they're going to call it luck, but they don't understand that you went through a period that they didn't see. So this video was for those who are stuck in a bad place right now, and they feel like what they're doing is not gonna work out. It's usually when you realize the grass is not greener on the other side. But it usually is. You just have to stick with it first to can I put it, to get those mistakes out of the way. There are certain things that you have to unlearn first before you can become the person that you need to be to get the outcomes that you want. But to unlearn those things, it's gonna take you some time, and you have to stick during that with that period until eventually things start to happen, and you go from that period where your life was going like this to now start to shift, and it goes like this. Everyone when they start is gonna start like this first before it goes like this. So it's usually those who stick with it during this period that eventually will make it to that period. And once you go on that period, people will call it luck, but they don't understand that you went through a period where you have to work on yourself. You have to change the way you look at things. You have to learn new skills and all that kind of stuff. So this is it for this video, guys.